I'm Kelly Crane, and this is Daily Readings with Kelly. Thanks for being here. Today's reading comes from a book called Love is Fierce, Healing the Mother Wound. This is by Kerri Hummingbird Sami. The mother wound. We all have this. That's a good book. Okay, let's get into today's reading, which is coming from page 157 in the section called Seriousness to Playfulness. Did you overtly get the message that being a child was an inconvenience to the adults in your life? Or did you notice more subtle and pervasive attitudes toward misbehaving children in public? If you were raised by parents versed in parenting by control, you may have perceived that demonstrating big emotions around adults was poor behavior and not to be tolerated. You may have learned to be a chameleon, to bring yourself into alignment with others' feelings. You may have learned how to contain yourself, stuff down your laughter and joy when it was inappropriate, and lower your vibration to match the person in your environment who was feeling pain, to be respectful toward them. It's a system of repressing natural emotional expression to match yourself to an expectation of being neutral or under the radar. Repeated punishment in childhood for expressing natural joy and playfulness leads to an unconscious belief that joy and playfulness are embarrassing. Repeated punishment in childhood for expressing anger leads to an unconscious belief that you don't have a right to feel angry nor to speak up about it. Often, the person who has experienced these messages in childhood will pick a partner who adopts a consistent attitude of seriousness. So they will have to keep bringing their joy down to fit under that ceiling. Controlling your emotional state is a protection mechanism to avoid punishment in childhood. And it is a lie people tell themselves long after its efficacy for survival. Okay. So we have talked about the messages we receive in childhood and our responses and adaptive behaviors that we develop to stay in connection and relationship with our parents and caregivers. And this adaptation, the adaptive behaviors we develop, is a survival mechanism. So, and she mentions this, it's efficacy for survival. At one time, it was for our survival. These are biological instincts, okay? Like we will chameleon, we will do what we need to do. Another author calls it the good child, right? The good child role. We will do what we need to do to keep in connection with our parents. Because if we don't have connection with our parents, it means death, okay? Like caveman era stuff here. This is reptilian brain stuff. This is not by choice. This is, biological. It is written in our DNA that we have to survive. And for our survival, we need to have connection with parents who can take care of us because we can't survive on our own, right? Children are very vulnerable and out in nature, they would just perish, right? So we have to stay in connection with an adult who could take care of us. We know that as kids, it is in our DNA. Like I said, it is instinct and urges and not conscious, but it is, we are driven to do this. And one of the ways that that we can keep this connection strong is if we change. We are the ones that have to change, right? So we think when we're kids that our parents are perfect, and we have to think that because the world is very scary. And if they don't know what's going on, then, oh my God, we're all screwed. So we have to believe that they're perfect. So if they're perfect and everything is crappy, then it must be my fault, right? Okay. So again, I just all of this to say these are survival mechanisms. Okay, this is nothing like you're wrong, you did things wrong, it's your fault you're this way. Like no, everybody goes through this. Okay. We have to, it's for our own survival. So this was, I love this because we usually go negative, like expressing the big emotions of like sadness, anger, fear. These can be really shut down. This is when our parent says, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. This is when it's go to your room. I don't want to see your face until you could come out and be a good girl, right? Stop crying. There's people who have it much worse than you, right? This is like just invalidating our feelings all the time. But we usually think of it in that respect. So I like this reading because it talks about the positive can be squashed too, right? When we think about kids, okay? Think about kids in your life, nieces or nephews or your own children, or like even if you're going to a restaurant and there's like kids around, just think about kids. They are loud, they squeal, they are squirrely, they're always moving. This is like natural energy of children. It's just like loud. They're not thinking about other people. They're just very self-focused and in the present moment. They are totally in the present moment. And if their body wants to move, they're gonna move. If they're, seeing something exciting, they're gonna squeal, and it's probably gonna be really loud, and maybe like hurt our eardrums a little bit, right? But this is like what they do. It's natural for kids to move in that way and have these high energy vibrations. So what happens if the child who is naturally like high vibration, high energy is with parents who have a very hard time with like sensory experiences, right? Maybe those loud noises are just like devastating for them, right? And they yell at the kid like, hey, turn it down, right? Like tone it down a little bit. It's too much. You're too loud. Hush, hush, hush. Right. Then we get the experience as a kid, like, whoa, what I'm doing is wrong. I can't feel this kind of joy anymore. I've got to tone it down or else my parents going to yell at me. And that feels bad. That might risk the connection. That might risk the attachment. And if that's, if that's threatened, then I might die. Right. This is like biological stuff again. So what do I do to protect that connection? I tone it down. I tone myself down. I get the message indirectly or directly that what I've done is wrong or bad, and I change. All kids do this, okay? All kids, again, you're not doing anything wrong if you've adapted with some of these behaviors because you had to. You had to keep the connection with your parents. So I love this one because it talks about, again, the joy. So when we think about, repressing emotions, we usually talk about repressed emotions of sadness, again, anger, guilt, fear. We repress and push these down. We deny those feelings, right? Like I'm good. I'm good. Everything's fine. We usually, when we're talking about repressed emotions, talk about like more kind of what we would call like negative emotions. But what she's saying, what Kerri Hummingbird Sami is saying here in this book, Love is Fierce, we do that with joy too. We do that with our squeals and delight, right? Like if we have the natural inclination to be like, yes, and celebrate, we may think it's embarrassing to do that because when we were kids, we got the message that, ooh, that's too much. That's too much. Tone it down. You're embarrassing me. Tone it down. Right? So we get that message and we're like, oh boy, what my natural inclination, my natural energy, my natural vibe, my natural way to celebrate is wrong. And it's threatening the relationship with my parent. I've got to change that so I could keep surviving. Whew. Okay, so think about how this works as in adulthood. She talks about we find partners that keep us suppressed, right? If they're serious, then I have to continue my suppression of my playfulness because they're going to think it's weird, right? This is like You know who's brilliant at really expressing their excitement is like teenage girls, like middle school and teenage girl, probably like 12, 13, 14 in that area, 11 to 14. You've seen these girls, they are like, talking with each other and they're moving their hands and they're just like excited and they're squealing and I love that. I love watching this age group of teenage girls because they're like little children expressing their excitement. And it's so fun because when they're with each other, it's okay. That's okay for them to do that. But maybe in front of a teacher or a parent, they would tone it down. Okay. And this is like always we hear the teacher like, yeah, you're talking too much. And on the report card, like, oh, so and so is talking too much. This is like they're just like expressing like how kids do. Okay, so let's remember this as parents that we want to kind of encourage the kids in our lives to really express their natural energy, to make it okay, to say to them, like, if they're literally squealing, maybe it's like, yes, I'm so excited that you're excited. Can we use our indoor voices to celebrate? Let's see who can whisper loudest. Right? So there's other ways to go about it where we can still encourage the excitement. We're not trying to dampen or suppress the excitement. But I understand at some points we're in like the movie theater or a restaurant or something, and we're trying to like just keep it down a little bit. But there's ways to still celebrate with our kids without telling them directly or indirectly that they're wrong or what they're doing is bad, right? So yeah, practice this with yourself too. So if you're really wanting to celebrate a win in your life, do it. Like what is the natural response? If you get the email that says you got the job, yes, stand up and do a little dance. Whatever you need to do, like just do it and see how it feels. At first, it's going to feel a little bit weird, but then it's going to feel fun and good. And I mean, there are people that I encourage, like my clients who struggle with this, to like get in front of the mirror and just dance and watch their body move and, turn on some good music and just kind of let yourself go a little bit and move freely, like how you did when you were a kid. And at first it always feels weird because we're not used to that. We've told ourselves over and over again, like, ooh, that's weird. I can't do that in public. Oh my gosh, everyone's gonna think I'm strange. And maybe we save the public displays for another time. But starting out, like get in front of the mirror, even if you don't want to see yourself, fine. Like just turn on the music, dance around. If you get the win, right? If you find you won the game, you got the email, you got the job, like whatever it is that's exciting in your life, do a little dance. Do a little dance today. Whatever that feels like. Do a little squeal, even if it's a little one. Like, yes. I totally encourage you to do that. Like let that part out of you. I always encourage my clients to like express the sadness and anger and all of those emotions. But this one, like we need to do this one too, which is super exciting to just feel the entire range of emotion, right? Positive to negative. Like we need to feel all of it. So yeah, have fun with this one today. I'll see you next time.